it was almost impossible for me to become religious. I was like, what am I? I'm going to now become one of these weird people? And I can't do this anymore, and I can't do this anymore, and I can't do that anymore. It was like, I had this block in my mind. I was like, okay, I'll do the basics. I'll do the tefillin, I'll do the meat and dairy thing, and I'll do the easy things, but don't start giving me now all these big things, Shabbos, and I can't do this anymore. And now it was very hard in my mind. I was like, I'm not going to go to the beach anymore. I'm not going to go out with girls. And it was this weird thing. No. Now the thing is that I slowly started taking another mitzvah and another mitzvah. And the whole year and a half that I was in Chicago, it felt like Hashem is holding my hand, telling me, don't worry, you're normal, everything's fine, just do what you need to do. And every time I would add another mitzvah and another mitzvah, but I would only do what is very, very easy, and whatever, kind of makes sense. Like for example, one time I read in the Siddur, in the prayer book, that, in the small print, that when you leave the bathroom, you have to wash your hands 3 times with this funny looking cup, and then you have to say a bracha. So I was like, okay, that's easy, I'll do that. So I went and bought this cup, and every time I would leave the bathroom, I would wash my hands 3 times and say the bracha asher yatzal. And I thought I'm like the tzaddik of the generation. I thought I'm like a rebbe. I was like, no, nobody's frum like me that washes their hands. I'm the only one who does it. But I literally in my mind thought that I'm so frum. And the funniest thing is one time my friend Itzi came to visit me, and he saw the cup, and he's like, oh, I see you doing Tilat Yadayim. Told him, you know what I do? Every time I leave the bathroom, I wash my hands and I say a bracha. He's like, that's nothing. You know what the real religious people do? They go to sleep and they put a bucket next to their bed, and they put this cup of water next to their bed, and when they wake up in the morning, they don't even put their foot on the ground, and they wash their hands. And I was like, what? What kind of a lunatic will do that? So, whatever didn't fit well in my mind, I was like, these crazy religious people, they're making up all sorts of things. But whatever fit in my mind well, I was like, okay, that I'll do. Whatever doesn't bother me, I'll do. And as the year and a half went, I added another thing and another thing. At some point, I knew I have to keep Shabbat. I didn't know how. I knew I'm not allowed to work, I'm not allowed to do this, but I was kind of bargaining. I was like, no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And at the time, I was a very heavy smoker. And I remember that about 10 years before this whole thing happened, I met this guy who was trying to do mitzvahim on me. And he was telling me, there's a God, you have a neshama in your body, and he was trying to makarif me. And everything that he told me, I was like, disqualifying every little thing that he said. An hour and a half, he was trying to somehow make me to understand anything. At the end, he gave up. And right before he gave up, he told me, listen, on Shabbat, you're not allowed to light fire. And on Shabbat, you're not allowed to extinguish fire. So if you must smoke on Shabbat, and you smoke about 50, 60 cigarettes, so at least don't turn out the cigarette. So if you smoke 50 or 60 cigarettes a day, so you have 50 less sins. And I was like, what? That's your religion? You're telling me not to turn out cigarettes? Tell me not to kill, tell me not to steal. You're telling me not to turn out cigarettes? I thought the guy's like a lunatic. 10 years later, when I had to figure out how I'm keeping Shabbat, I was like, wait a minute. I just found a loophole. I'm going to finish the cigarette, and instead of turning it out, I'll just throw it in the ashtray like this guy said, and I keep Shabbos. So I would smoke my cigarette, finish the cigarette, put it in the ashtray. And in my mind, I keep Shabbos. Somebody would ask me, yeah, I keep Shabbat. Yeah, but I just saw you drive. Oh, driving is okay. I don't turn out my cigarettes. And in my mind, I keep Shabbos. And that was my Shabbos. And that for me was a big thing. Every time to remember not to turn out the cigarette. And if I would turn out the cigarette by mistake, I would be like, oh, no, now they're going to barbecue me again. Oh, Mom, that's it for me. And that's how it went for a couple months. Till one time, a friend told me, on Shabbat you have to do Kiddush. I was like, Kiddush? Wine? I'll do that. But I was mehader. Every time I had the opportunity to do a mitzvah, I was like, at least I'm doing it all the way. Now I lived in a very southern part of Chicago, in a suburb. I used to drive 60 miles, exactly 58 miles from where I lived to the north part to buy kosher wine. And every Shabbos would come, I would set the table nice, put a nice suit on, make a meal, then do Kiddush. I bought a fancy cup, and I do the whole thing, and then I would finish my meal and go out to a movie. And one time a friend comes to visit me, and I tell him it's Shabbat, we got to do Kiddush. Okay, so we do the whole thing. And I do Kiddush, the whole ceremony, and then we get dressed and we go out to a club. And on the way back from the club, 4 o'clock in the morning, my friend tells me, you're kind of making a joke out of the whole thing. I told him, why? He tells me, because either you're religious and you keep Shabbat and you do your Kiddush, or you're not. But you cannot do Kiddush and then go out to a club. It's like you're making a joke. So I told him, no, let me explain to you. If you go out now to a playground and you see like a 9-year-old boy running up and down and jumping on the ladders and everything, nobody gets excited, because all the 9-year-olds do the same thing. But if you see like an 11-month-old baby take a step, everybody's like, wow, look, he walked. Everybody pulls out their phone, taking a million pictures, because he did one step. So I told him, you know what? That's how I am in Hashem's eyes. You know what happened right now? You know what happens when I stand and I do Kiddush? I'll tell you what happens. Hashem calls all of his angels. And he tells them, come, look. Look at my little son, what he did down there. Look what he did. He drove 60 miles to buy kosher wine. 58. He could have bought the wine here in the corner store. He drove 58 miles to buy kosher wine. And he put on a nice suit. And he set the table. And he stood for 2 minutes. He stopped his day to say thank you for creating the world and thank you for this wine. And he drank the wine and he made a whole deal out of the whole thing. And he stopped his life for 5 minutes to acknowledge that I exist. Told him that's what Hashem sees. I'm this baby that can only do one step. I cannot do more than one step. I do one step and I fall. And in Hashem's eyes, this step is everything. He totally ignores right now everything around me because he knows I can't handle it. And the whole year and a half, that's how I was. I was like, I can't be from. I can only handle this amount, and that's it. That's my capacity. I cannot do another thing. And every time I would add another part and another part.